Hey, everybody, we're back once again with the long-awaited part 2 with Lieutenant John Costigan, NYPD retired. So, John, here we go. I tell you, I have gotten so much feedback from that first episode.
That was a rambling episode, too. I didn't like the way it came out.
Oh, but they loved it. Everybody loved it. They couldn't wait for the next one. So, here we are.
And I want to emphasize two things.
Yeah.
First thing is, I was not a ball of fire crime fighter out there. I don't want to give that impression.
You had no cape.
No, but I mean, I wasn't. No, this is just, I was working in some great places. And I think the difference is I have really good memory. And
Yeah.
That's what it is. But any cop that worked in these places knows exactly what I'm talking about. You know, and it has done these things. It's nothing. And it has to do with the city the way it was back then.
Yeah.
Because
before you went to the academy, did you have like an idea in your head
of the city?
Yeah, an experience?
Yes, because, you know, I used to drive a truck before I joined the police department. And so it was the late 70s, early 80s, right before I went in the academy. And I tell this story all the time to people. I go, like, I would drive from Suffolk County into New York City. I deliver building materials, doors and frames to construction sites. And a lot of times I'd have to stop in Brooklyn, and then I'd come across the Williamsburg Bridge onto Delancey Street. Now, this is Monday through Friday, and I'd be getting into the city around 9, 10 o'clock in the morning. You go down Delancey Street, and you'd get to Christie Street, and it's packed with hookers all over, both sides of the street, like just hanging out. And it's like, you know, the strange thing was, like, nobody even gave it a second glance. Just like, that's the way it was. So it was like, I used to be amazed. Like, I'm, 19 years old, right? I'm like, what the hell, man? This is crazy, this place. And that just wasn't there. It was all over the city. The city was crazy back then.
Oh, no, uptown, downtown?
Yeah, because if you went up to, when I worked up in Spanish Harlem, at Park Avenue, that was full of hookers. The west side of Manhattan was full. The Queens, over when I worked in Queens, the Long Island City area, it just, and it wasn't at nighttime, mostly at nighttime, but like I said, Williamsburg Bridge, coming over the bridge in the morning on Delancey Street, there's hookers on both sides of the street just hanging out, like, walking up and down in between traffic, like, hey, good morning, Yeah. And people didn't bat an eye.
Yeah.
And that's what makes me feel good about New York City now, because people always talk about how it's going in the dumps. But people do, you'll see there's a lot of concern when the crime goes up. Back then, it was just taken for granted, like, that's the way it is, I guess.
And how long before that went away?
What do you mean?
Like that atmosphere, because after the big cleanup, it was different.
Giuliani, I think.
Yes, yeah. Well, they did the whole broken windows theory of policing, which it did work. And when I came out, you were not taking any proactive policing. You were running from call to call to call, and it was craziness. It was really you weren't able to do any preventive policing.
Right.
Basically, you were just answering the 911 calls. And I don't want to jump ahead to the 7-7, but I remember in the 7-7, when I used to turn out the platoon, I used to say almost the exact same thing. I'd call a roll call, and then I'd say, all right, guys, we're holding like 62 jobs. If you could start picking up the radio, I'd really appreciate it. And that wasn't... It wasn't uncommon. That's just the way it was.
Yeah.
Every single night there. Holding 42 jobs, guys.
But I went from the Midtown area, Midtown South, right, and went out to the 112. 112 was the opposite.
Oh, and everything I say
you could do a set of midnights without a call.
Yes, and like I said, all of my stories are my experience, and every precinct. That's the city. That's what's great about it, because the way it was policed in South Jamaica, Queens, and East New York was not the way it's policed in Gramercy or the Upper West Side.
Remember they used to say each borough was really like its own police department?
It is. Well, and at that time, they had 75 precincts, and each one is completely different.
No, that's like every town on Long Island. It's its own little planet there.
And everybody has their own, what's unusual in that precinct. Or
Did it make you a cynic after your 20?
No, I love it.
You
no,
do?
I still, no,
you fit right in.
Well, you know what it was? I don't know why. I was amazed at it. I literally was amazed every time I went to work, because it was crazy. But it was, I remember I used to come home from work. Now, I worked in South Jamaica, Queens. I lived in Oceanside, so it was a 10-mile drive. I remember coming home, and, like, I'd be hanging out with friends, and I remember saying to them, like, do you guys know, like, 10 miles up the road, they're having fights in the street with machine guns? Like, I mean, do you realize that is going on, like on a nightly occurrence? It's not a big deal up there?
Right.
Hey, I got a call one time of this is just how crazy it was. A man shot, right? So it was like Merrick Boulevard and Montauk Street. And we pull up on the scene, and, there's no commotion. Usually there's a commotion if someone's shot, So, there's people hanging out. So we asked for a call back, do you have any further information? And with that, a guy comes walking over to the car. So I roll the window down. I'm like, you call for the police? He's like, no, I called for an ambulance. I said, is somebody shot, yes or no? So with that, he goes, yeah. He goes, I got shot yesterday. He lifts his shirt up, and he's got a bullet hole in his stomach. And he goes, yeah, I got shot yesterday. He goes, I think it might be infected. I'm like, really? That's how, it was just a crazy, crazy time.
Yeah. I had a guy in 34th Street train station, and he's online for tokens, and his shirt is completely covered in blood. A business guy going to work with his briefcase. And I said, are you okay? And he goes, yeah, why? And I said, well, you're bleeding. He goes, no, don't worry about it. He goes, some guy tried to mug me in the tunnel. I was like, you better sit down, buddy. You're losing a lot of blood here. He's going to work like that.
Hey, but every one of these would be a major news story, today, which is the way it should be. And it would be, you'd have a platoon of cops responding to a man shot and, setting up a crime scene. Back then, it was like, all right, have the ambulance respond,
Were your civilian friends in awe of what you did? Did they think you were a cape?
Well, I had a lot of good stories.
Yeah.
So it was interesting.
Well, John, to give you it's even we live pretty close to New York City, but Midtown South was 0.29 square miles big. Midtown South, okay? And over 1 million people would walk through the precinct every day.
Oh, right, yeah, right.
Okay, so 1 million people would come in because you had Penn Station, Grand Central, and Port Authority. So we would turn out in that little tiny precinct, 80 cops at a turnout. And as soon as they would go out, like 50 cops from NSU would be right behind them. Yeah. Then street crime would turn out 50 guys right behind that. It's like you're putting hundreds and hundreds of cops.
Completely different type of policing.
Right.
That's public relations policing. They had their crime. They had. I believe I didn't work there, but I mean, you just know it's a lot of tourism you're dealing with. You're dealing with a lot of people visiting the city. Right. So I'll reference when I was in the 7-5. We would turn out like 80 guys on a day shift because you got maybe 12, 14 sectors, and maybe sometimes you'd have 20 cops going to foot post and then specialty cars. We'll do their fighting. Right. They would just go.
Yeah.
It was like, all right.
But yeah, but you had.
Oh, but I mean, there's nothing bad about either one. It was just
you have
different police.
42nd Street from 7th to 8th, this is pre-Giuliani, so it was crazy.
Right.
But you would have 40 cops on the foot post on that one block. And there would still be robberies going down and muggings and assaults and multiple arrests. And in the movie theaters, man with gun, we'd go into the movie theaters and just pick up every single person. Get up. Is this the guy that had the gun? No, it's not him. Sit down. Get up. People watching the movie, you're dragging them out of their seats.
I would imagine for some guys, after a while, it got to be a grind. But was every day going to work a brand new day?
Well, you don't have to see. I was in, first of all, I told you I did well in the academy, so I passed over to field training. So I went right into the precinct after like a month after the academy. So the guy and my partner, he came also into the precinct on the same time, same date. So when the guys from our academy class were actually getting out of field training and starting to filter into the precinct, me and my partner already had a steady sector. We were a steady sector, steady partners. So, I mean, because that's how shorthanded they were.
Right.
So we were the first in out of our class. A class that came out before us, like 6 months before. So it was a few guys there. And then we were the beginning of the mass numbers of hiring. So, yeah, there was open sectors. So we actually had a steady sector already, moving into the precinct, which actually helped, made your life much nicer. And then from there, I went to that narcotics unit, from the narcotics unit to anti-crime, and then got promoted to sergeant. So for me, everything, it kept moving, every couple of years I was doing something different.
Were the guys like, how'd you get so lucky or,
No, because you know why? We worked.
Yeah.
We had some good collars.
Did you do headline collars?
No.
Nothing no, I mean like real big high profile in the newspaper.
No. Well, I was in the newspaper once. We got shot at on, which is is the newspaper story. Yeah. That's the other story. But it was, and it goes to the times how it was, because what happened was on Rockaway Boulevard, there was an abandoned, it was a row of stores, but a lot of the upstairs apartments were abandoned, either burned out or abandoned. So they would deal drugs out of them. And one night we were on patrol, and it was about 2 in the morning, and we were over there and harassing the drug dealers, and we went around to the backyard, so it's behind the buildings. Yeah, and the guy just appeared on a roof and started shooting at us. So, but it turned out well because we called it 1013, and the whole borough responded and went through the whole building and recovered 4 guys and a bunch of guns. And but, yeah, that's what I mean. So we had good collars. Yeah.
Well, in your time, were teenagers still ever fearful of the police, or like even 10-year-olds? Like they don't seem to be afraid.
You want to hear a great story? I tell people this because it shows you how strange the city was. One of my first footposts, I was on Merrick Boulevard, and I had to go up to Linden Boulevard. So I'm brand new, right? So like a week out of the academy. So it's like your first time working alone, And I think I drove up there, parked the car, and I knew there was drug dealing on the corner of Linden and Merrick, which is part of my post. But not a bad, really bad, but there was drug dealing everywhere. But so I'm nervous, I'm like, all right, and I'm walking up Merrick Boulevard towards this corner, and there's a bunch of stores there, and I see the drug dealers hanging out on the corner, and as I approach, a bunch of kids come around the corner, and like 14, 15. And as they turn the corner towards me, one of them goes over and kicks over a garbage can, right? And throw, garbage all over the street. So now I'm saying, all right, now how do I freaking deal with this?
Right.
Like I got 4 kids here, about that age where they're really tempting. And now, I'm the authority. I got to take action here. Before I could do anything, the drug dealers came off the stoop, grabbed these kids, and said, "Hey, pick up the garbage. You don't disrespect the police officer." I was like, all right. I gave them a nod. They were like, "No, officer, I'm sorry about that." And the kids went and picked up all the garbage. I was like, it was a weird time. It was like there's, that's a strange.
It's funny because I was working in Bryant Park. So people were coming to Bryant Park, which it had a reputation for drugs. And somebody got shot, so they put 6 cops a day in there. So we went in. We were making arrest after arrest after arrest. And people were coming in from Long Island, and they would walk up to you with a joint in their mouth going, "Officer, my friend doesn't believe we're allowed to smoke pot." And I said, "You're not, and you're under arrest," because there was a precinct addition. They all went down. So we had one regular marijuana dealer. I forget the guy's name. But I'm walking with him, and I took his marijuana, and I said, "All right, clean up a little bit around the park." And he says, "I'll give you your stuff when we get to the other side. I'll give it back to you." So we're walking, and he's picking up. He's throwing stuff in the garbage. And I look up, and they're doing Channel 4 News is videoing down right at us. So I go, "All right, get lost. Take your stuff and get out of here." So the reporter comes in and goes, "Officer, were you just making him clean the park?" I go, "Him? No, he's a volunteer. He comes every week."
He's helping out.
Yeah. I go, "He's a good guy. He's a really good guy."
I'm telling you, it was a strange time, yeah. But and then because I hooked up with this my partner very early, and he was a real he was a crime fighter, so it was good because I was along for the ride then. So yeah, but we did get involved in a lot of stuff. We had a lot of good, not in a long time, but.
Did you ever have a partner that like you didn't see eye to eye, and he wasn't for you, you weren't for him?
Well, yeah, there was people that you didn't like to work with.
Was that an easy fix for
that's
you?
That's what made it great when I had a steady partner, because then you didn't have to worry about it anymore. If you didn't have a partner, you're at the luck of the draw every day, so you don't know who you're working with. So when I teamed up with my partner, it was pretty much set in stone.
What did you like better, days or nights?
Oh, I loved all of it because each one is different, and and like.
Were you never not busy?
Yeah, there was slow days, and because South Jamaica, Queens, it's got little pockets of bad areas back then. Rockaway, Sutphin, Guy Brewer, Farmers Boulevard. But there's a lot of suburban area. People, workers, going to work every day, families. So it was good. You had a good mix there. But those little crime-ridden pockets, they caused a lot of problems for those areas.
Yeah.
So yeah.
John, is that where you had the guy? I think it was a domestic.
Oh yes, yeah.
The guy who was in bed?
Yes.
Yeah, tell us
All
that.
right.
That's good.
Yeah. And I tell the story, and my kids say you should be careful, but I'm like, I'll tell you the story. One day we get a call, a day shift, a weekly, middle of the week. We had just turned out family dispute, order of protection involved, which today you'd have to make an arrest whenever, or give an answer why you didn't. But back then you didn't have to, and you could make the other person leave if the complainant wanted that. So we drive to this house, and this woman's downstairs, and she goes, listen, she goes, my husband came home last night drunk. I have an order of protection against him. I let him stay here overnight, but I want him out now, and he's not leaving. It's like, all right. Which they're saying, like, you shouldn't really be a bouncer, but all right, I go, where is he? She goes, he's upstairs in bed. So we go upstairs, and the guy's laying in bed, and he's a huge guy. So me and my partner are going, listen, come on, you have to leave. Your wife wants you out of the house. He's like, he's laying in bed, he's not doing anything, he's not responding. So tapping him on the shoulder, go, listen, come on, you got to leave. I go, you got to get out of the house. So he just opens his eyes, turns towards us, and goes, fuck you. And closes his eyes. So we're like, listen, come on, you got to get going. Your wife wants you arrested. You're going to get arrested if you don't get up and go now. So he just opens his eyes again. And he goes, fuck you, try to arrest me, and closes his eyes. So my partner goes on the radio. He says, Central, do you have other units available in the precinct? So she's like, yeah, Eddie, Charlie, David, Frank. So he says, Central, start having some units head over in our direction. It looks like we're going to be making an arrest, and it looks like it's going to become violent. So that's like a lot of guys like, it's
Here we go.
and there's
Buckle
nothing
up.
going on. So a bunch of, all you hear is sirens start popping up, like Adam's coming Central. Put David on the back Central. Frank's coming Central. George is heading over there Central. And then my partner goes on the radio and says, in Central, have an ambulance respond to this location. So the guy is laying there and you hear sirens coming and we're just standing there. And all of a sudden, I'll never forget, he opens his eyes, he goes, what's going on? And I go, nothing. You stay there. I go, we got 12 guys coming. Then you're getting locked up. And that ambulance, that's for you. So, and he's like, oh, can I get out of here? We're like, yeah, go. That's all we want you to do is get out of here. Yeah. He's like, oh, no, I'll leave. We're like, yeah, go. If you can get out of here before they get here. So I tell that story, and my kids are like, oh, you better be careful because you're threatening him. And I'm like, I'm not threatening him. It's basically, listen, you got to leave. I'm not going to fight you. We're not going to fight you, but we're going to get a bunch of guys here, and we're going to lock you up.
Yeah.
And we're going to have an ambulance here because if it becomes violent, odds are somebody's going to get hurt. So please get up and go. I just want to accomplish this goal. Get out of the house.
Sounds reasonable to me.
Yes.
There was a guy down in the academy, an old time cop, right? And he goes, he goes, we were out in Queens, and he goes, we had a same situation, an apartment, and he goes, the guy's giving everybody a hard time, and he goes, I said to him, listen, you ever have a big party in your apartment? The guy's like, what do you mean? He goes, you ever have a big party? He goes, yeah. He goes, how many people have been to this apartment at one time? He's like, 20. He goes, well, you're about to get about 5,000 here. He goes, if that's what it takes to get you at that door, that's what we're bringing in.
Well, and actually, I'll tell you the truth. My own opinion is it's safer because there's the easiest thing is overwhelm the person with force. I'm not calling people, okay, come on over. We're going to beat the shit out of this guy. We're going to overwhelm him with force. You're going to have 12 guys grab him and hold him down and handcuff him. And that's safer for him, safer for us. I remember being taught in the academy, nobody's paying you to go one-on-one with anybody out there. You got a radio and you use it.
Absolutely,
before you take action, make sure you have people coming on your back. And
Did you ever have to talk someone off the ledge?
Of what? Of
a suicide?
No. I didn't work with any place with a
What about? Did you have any big car chase?
Oh my God! Are you kidding me? Really?
Yeah. I mean, like
Joyce,
French Connection car
Joyce.
chase.
I was in 13 car accidents. 3 of them, my head broke the windshield. Yes, 3
Over your
of them.
20 years?
Over about 7 years. 'Cause then I worked headquarters, so it didn't. Yeah. No, we would actually. You know what? I mean, I hate to say this, but we would literally go out and, like, if we saw a car that might take off. Back then, chases weren't prohibited. They became prohibited. But we would hit the sirens and the lights, and if they pulled over, we'd be like, fuck. we drive past them. All right, let's keep going, damn it. Yeah. I mean, and I'm glad they prohibited them because they were dangerous.
Yeah.
It was crazy.
Looking back, do you think, oh my God, what was I thinking? I could have killed people.
No, well, yeah. Oh, yeah. Actually, I was in, I have a story in the paper about an accident that was in. But, and a stupid reason, chasing a motorcycle. And, and we head on the car.
But I get that. It's like you take it personally only because you're like, you're not going to get away from me. I'm going to.
Yeah, but you know what? Like something like that, a motorcycle, you should never chase. I mean, and I learned that the hard way. But I do understand. I because you can't just let people disregard because you don't really know what that's about. And
Well, I worked midnights in Nassau Highway as a sergeant, and one of the things was, once they start chasing, it gets worse.
Oh,
Now
God.
more guys get involved,
Oh.
and it's like, so the faster you could go, what do you got? Oh, it's for speeding. Let them go, because you after 2 or 3 minutes, it's now there's 8 cars involved in it, and
You know,
they can't hear you on the
the
radio.
theory behind the chase? Get him to crash.
Right.
That's the theory
Oh,
behind the
yeah,
chase.
yeah.
He's not stopping.
Yeah.
I always said that. They're never pulling over. It's either going to end with a crash,
Oh, yeah.
or they're getting away.
Yeah, I'll give you a good one I had. When I was in anti-crime, there were 3 of us in the car. I was driving, my partner, and we had a third anti-crime guy in the back seat. 2 o'clock in the morning, I'm on like New York Boulevard by the projects there, like just south of Linden. And so we're getting off the tour at 2 in the morning. And a call comes over, a man shot up in the north end of the precinct. So I'm like, we'll head up there, you know. And as I'm turning onto New York Boulevard, a car is like a Trans Am, comes whipping around the corner on 2 wheels going the opposite direction, you know. It's like, what the hell? I'll get behind this car, see what's going on. So we were in this Ford. Like nothing, that wasn't a police car. It was an unmarked car, but it had no sirens. We had the stupid red light that you put on the hood, you know, on the roof of the car. And the Ford at that time, the horn, you had to push the directional in to make it beep, right? So anyway, so we're in the car. We get behind this Trans Am, and my partner puts the plate over, and the next thing Central comes back with, okay, that car was just taken at gunpoint about 35 minutes ago in Brooklyn. It's a male black, you know. So like, all right. So we're behind him, and we're in this. It's like a little. It's the suburbs, you know, the back streets. So I remember saying to my partner, and the worst thing was the car that I was driving, you had to feather the gas pedal because it would bog down. The carburetor would bog down. So every time I'd try to give it gas, I had to feather the gas pedal, like bum, 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 bum. So anyway, so I said to my partner, I go, you ready? He's like, yeah. So he puts the light on the hood, on the roof, and I start beeping the horn by the directional. Beep, 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 beep. And then actually, this guy, he takes off. So the good thing was he kept going in circles. So it was like Central in pursuit, eastbound on 111 Avenue. Okay, now he's going northbound on 142 Central. He's going back eastbound on 112 Avenue, whatever the avenues were. But he kept making a right turn. Then he'd go up to the next corner, make a right. But the whole time I'm following him, I had to, like, every time I'd hit the corner, I had to, like, bum, 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 and then get to the next intersection, and then get to the next straightaway, bum, 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 bum. He finally goes past Linden Boulevard, and we all know that the street ends like about 100 yards up. It didn't end, but it went on a drastic angle back, like a hairpin turn. So he slams on the brakes and smashes into a truck that's parked straight in front of him. I come racing down behind him, and I see someone getting out of the passenger car, and I said, you know, I'm going to try to clip that person. You know, So I try to hit him, but I take out the door on the stolen car, and I slam into the truck.
Yeah.
And now I get out the window onto the hood of his car, and my partner's getting out his side. It's a girl that got out of the passenger side, and she's screaming, he kidnapped me, he kidnapped me. So the guy in the backseat grabs her, and me and my partner chase this guy, and there used to be a junkyard, old junk cars in there, and it boarded up on the Long Island Railroad. So we go chasing him through this junkyard, all the way to the back, over the piles of cars, and my partner actually stepped into like a drum of freaking motor oil, so up to his knee. But we get all the way back to the fence, and it's like a chain, big, tall chain link fence.
Yeah.
And it's got strung with barbed wire between. There's another chain link fence about 12 feet out, and then the railroad tracks. And we're like, fuck, he's not here. Oh, fuck. So now you got a stolen car, robbery, carjacking before it was called carjacking. We got a woman claim she was kidnapped. I got that car involved in an accident. I got my car involved in an accident. It's like, what a freaking clusterfuck. I was like, holy shit. And I'll never forget, I looked down my flashlight, and the guy is hanging in the barbed wire because he went over the first fence, and he just got caught up, and he's just laying. I'm like, oh, there he is. Oh, thank
Hanging on the
God.
wire.
Yes. Oh, thank God.
What a day. What a show.
I'm telling you, we had a good chases.
Did you have a good rapport with your commander supervisors?
Yeah. Well, like I said, I was in patrol, and that was an old time sergeant. It was back in the old days, and he was an old timer, so he didn't really get involved with anything. It's basically, the first year evaluations. Call you in. Here's your evaluation. Yeah. Fill it out. don't give yourself all excellent, because leave yourself room to improve. And get it back to me by next Wednesday, because he wasn't doing them.
Yeah.
You fill it out. Be honest with how you feel you did.
Yeah.
It's just paperwork for him.
Were your sergeants like 20-year sergeants? Like they stayed? Because nowadays it seems like you move up really, really fast.
Well, that was the beginning of, because they hadn't hired in a long time. So the sergeants then were, like I was saying last time, 60s and 70s guys, actually 60s guys. And I mean, there were guys back then that were, like I said before, a lot of Vietnam vets, Korean War vets. There was actually, I ran across a couple of World War II vets that were still on the job.
Wow.
In the 80,
Wow.
82, 83.
Yeah.
Those guys had 30, 40 years on, But,
Amazing.
yeah.
That's amazing.
Hey, John, so I go, I'm brand new in the 112 working at midnight, and I'm with a guy who spent his entire 25-year career in the 112, and he lived like in the precinct. Right. So he's like, he doesn't want to be involved in anything. He doesn't, So there's a pursuit going on, and it's started in Astoria, and they're going down. They're on the Grand Central. So I'm like, we need the Grand Central. He's like, nah, it's not really by us. And you hear the 114's involved. The 104's involved, right? All these cars are involved.
Yeah, everybody. Yeah.
Right. Street crimes on it. So I go, are they near us? So he's like, no. So we're at Metropolitan Avenue. We're in a Chrysler K car.
Okay, yes.
Right? The little four-cylinder job.
Oh, I know. Yep.
Right? And I said to him, hey, they're on, not Metropolitan, one of the cross streets that comes off the Grand Central. I go, hey, they're right here. They're coming off the Grand Central. So he goes, oh, yeah, they are. They're coming right towards us. So we're stopped at the corner of Metropolitan Avenue, and they're coming, right? And he goes, okay. He says, as soon as they get here, we're going to hit the lights. And he goes, we're going to get right in the line. I said, okay. So I'm all ready. I'm in the passenger seat. And here they come. He reaches he goes, oh, I'm sorry. I popped the trunk. He gets out of the car. I'm sitting there. I see 10 cars go. It was like being at the Indy 500. And they just left. And he got back and goes, oh, I guess we missed it.
Actually, one of the first incidents I got involved in, it wasn't a big deal, but I'm pretty sure I was with Richie, my partner. And we were on 120th Avenue in Queens, day shift, and we're headed east on it. And the 105 anti-crime comes on the air that they're following a car wanted for numerous robberies with 4 males in it, and it's coming up westbound on 120th Avenue. So I remember looking at him like, holy shit, we're going eastbound. All right. So now they're like, listen, we got the car they don't have the car stopped. The car is stopped for a red light at the corner of Farmers Boulevard and anti-crime, and we're behind them. So as I'm coming up to Farmers Boulevard from the opposite direction, so we're looking, and they're on the radio going, that's them, right in the first car. So I just pull out past the cars waiting on the light, and I go across the intersection and flip on the lights and sirens, and then we just whip our guns out. And we just open the doors and just aim them at the guys in the front windshield. But with that, anti-crime was already had already gotten out, coming up on the sides behind them. They weren't even looking at them because they were looking at us. So anti-crime was opening the doors and pulling these guys out. But I forgot to put my car into park. So my car keeps banging into the front of their car, which is banging into the anti-crime car. I remember the anti-crime guy going, put your car in park. And I'm like, what? I'm like, what? Yeah, it was just like the adrenaline, you rush out like, holy shit, yeah, all right, okay, yeah, all right, let me get you.
You go to some of those calls and guys jump out of the car and leave the siren on, and it'd be like,
hey,
go back in your car, shut that thing off.
One of my best arrests was because the guys got out. Listen to this. Is a good. I was sitting on a DOA one day. I was on a foot post, so I was just out of the academy, and the cops have to sit on the DOA. If a person dies in a house or an apartment, the police are called, and they have to stay there until the body's removed, either to the funeral home or to the medical examiner's office. So I had to go to this. I think it was relieving another post that was there. I go there, the body gets removed, and I call for a ride back to the station house to bring the paperwork back. So the sector pulls up, Terry and Mike, and so I get in the back seat. Now I was pretty new, so I had everything. I had this stupid gun belt with the nightstick, with the
flashlight.
Everything hanging off my belt. And I get in the back seat, and as soon as I get in the back seat, a call comes over for a burglary in progress, 4 blocks away. So they get on the radio, all right, we're responding. So we go down the street where the burglary is, and I don't think they had an address, so we're just driving slowly down the street, and all of a sudden you see there's a ladder up against the back of a house, and there's 2 kids on the ladder and 3 kids standing in the backyard. So they bolt out of the car, the 2 cops in the front. They take off, running through the backyard, and I see the guys taking off over the fence. And I go to open the door, and the door's locked because I can't get out of the back seat. I'm like, son of a bitch, what the fuck? I'm in the freak. Oh, shit. But what I did was I freaking flopped myself over the seat. And they left the car running. So I just slammed it into gear. The doors were open, and I just took off. And I went down around the corner, and the door shut, and I go racing around the corner. I'll never forget it. I come around the corner, and I'm coming up to where I thought the house was, like behind. And there was a guy on my left cutting his grass. And he just looks at me, and I look at him, and he just, like, points with his finger to the left.
Yeah.
And I look, and there's two kids, like, way up the street coming out of a backyard. So I go racing up to him, and I was like, put them up against the car. But I was like, thank God they left the car running.
Yeah.
Otherwise, I would have been like, geez.
The more you have to chase, I'm talking about not a car chase, but a foot chase.
Yeah.
The more you have to chase the kid, is it the angrier you get?
No, it's
It's like, why do you make me run after you?
no. I want to hear my best story ever.
Yeah. But hey, going back to the time, sign of the time. But back then, you worked like a 4 to 12 a minute. You had your gun out of the holster like 10 times a night.
Oh,
Yeah.
Like always,
Burglary in progress,
Yeah.
a robbery in progress, a man with a gun,
Right.
assault in progress.
even doing car stops,
Oh, yeah, no,
always had the gun out. Like, and it's guys always packing 2 guns, 3 guns at work.
That's like, I forget what the time was, but you told me a story about, it was so bad, the riots were coming up from Harlem down, and they sent you to the armory, and everyone got
that was Billy Mormon.
Oh,
Class-
back in the 60s? And,
Yeah, 60, 80 went
Yeah.
on. They sent them out in the middle, and it was if they get below like 90th Street, shoot to kill.
Yep.
Right, that
Yeah,
was the
yeah.
order, and they had to meet trucks under the FDR to pick up ammo.
I've
hit
heard
a box.
I've heard stories like this, and it's all before my time.
Yeah.
But I guarantee there's some.
It was the 60s,
The 60s,
riots
the 68. I remember they talking about like the flatbed truck from the range in the Bronx would come around the corner and just kick off boxes of ammo to guys because they were shooting at people on the rooftops, and the rooftop people were shooting down a
but
dam, and it
that-
was just like.
And
Oh,
that was
my
the
goodness.
time of the cops getting killed, the black
Yes,
and white cops
yes,
getting
yes.
killed.
Hey, want to hear a funny story though? Angelo, a friend of mine that I worked with, he worked in TPF or Special Events Squad, I think, one of them, which went to the riots. And he was a funny guy, but he tells me a story. And he's like, he goes, "You got to picture this, John." He goes, "You're at a riot." He goes, "And it's hot. It's the summer." He goes, "There's broken glass. There's people running. There's shots being fired." He goes, "It's a battle zone for a few days." And he goes, "But you'd go to the hospital." He goes, "You'd be in the emergency room to get like patched up with you got cut or something." He goes, "And it was like a demilitarized zone." He goes, "Because all the rioters would be on one side and all the cops would be on it. And it's like in here, nothing goes on.
Yeah.
When, nope, we're all here for the same reason. But when we go back out there, we're back at it
back in
again."
business.
But in here, it's like a
You catch your breath.
demilitarized. Yes, everybody relax.
I'm going to say around
Oh my God.
84, 85, Madison Square Garden was the first rap concert. No, we didn't even know what it was. We didn't
I
even know
know,
what a
yeah,
rap concert was. So I was working the day tour, and we were going out on the 4 to 12 for a couple of drinks, and then we were going to stay at the station house to do a day tour the next day. So I'm walking back from the east side of Manhattan towards West 35th Street to the station house. I don't know, 10 o'clock at night. I see cops running everywhere. So I'm walking. I go to the cop, "What's going on?" He goes, "They're out of control, Madison Square Garden." He goes, "It's a rap concert." I go, "What's?" He goes, "It's a rap concert." He goes, they're crazy. They're rioting." So the station house is a block away from Madison Square Garden. So I go back. I go up to the dorms. I go to bed. I get up the next morning. I come downstairs to the turnout room. There's just people all over the place, bleeding. There's EMS in there, patching people up. So the sergeant gets up and he goes, "Okay, listen to me. Can I have your attention? If you were robbed, get on this line. If you were assaulted, I want you over here on the right side of the wall. If you were robbed and assaulted, right in the middle." You see all these people hobbling around.
When I worked in the 7-7, there was a lot of old timers there, and one guy was telling me a story. He goes, "John," he goes, "back in the riots." He goes, "I'm not kidding you." He goes, "One morning," he goes, "I remember we're in the muster room, guys just hanging out." He goes, "The captain comes down and goes, 'Listen, I'm looking for volunteers. We just want to take back,'" I forget the street that was even on. "We just want to take it back from like this avenue to this avenue. That's all." He goes, that's all. He goes, "Nothing more." He goes, "We just want to try to take back this area right in front of the station house,
Right.
And he goes, "John," he goes, "guys start getting up and like, all right, volunteer. Well, sweaty and, he goes, guys are carrying pieces of chain, baseball bats, 2x4s. He goes, that's how it was. He goes, these
Yeah.
guys were just battling all night long, and like, all right, yeah, what do you need, Cap?
Yeah.
Yep, all right.
Oh my goodness.
Which I like I said, I wasn't there. It was all but I
Yeah.
know there's truth to this.
Right,
Yeah.
right. Well, I worked with a guy, and he told me the story about the Diana Ross concert, which
Yes,
was up at
Central Park.
Central Park, and they got a severe thunderstorm, and it ended up being like total bedlam. Shit going on all over. So this guy says he's working down at 42nd Street. So he goes, we're listening on the radio, and you're hearing, at 59th Street, we're up by Central Park, robberies, street robberies, broken windows, people being pulled out of their cars, right? 58th Street, along 8th Avenue, 57th Street, 56th Street, robberies, armed robberies going on, people just taking jewelry off of people. And he goes, it's just a mob coming south. And he goes, they're coming to 42nd Street. Mm-hmm. So he goes, they get down to like 49th Street. And he goes, all of a sudden, radio cars start pulling up on 42nd Street. Mm-hmm. And it's like a borough-wide
mobilization.
Yeah. And he goes, they're dropping off four cops. They pull onto 42nd Street, the doors would open, 4 cops would get out, and the car would drive away. And he goes, it was car after car. So now there's like 300 or 400 cops standing. And he goes, we're all milling around, smoking cigarettes. He goes, how you making out? I haven't seen you since the academy. How you doing? And he goes, you listen on the radio, and it's 46th Street, 45th Street. And he goes, they get to 44th, and you see cops start putting their gloves on, right?
Going to work.
Cracking their knuckles, stretching out. And he goes, they rounded from 8th Avenue, this mob, onto 42nd Street, and they realized they were flanked.
Yes.
It was over. They couldn't back up. And he goes, it was bad. It was just take them and lock them all up. He goes, they all got locked up. He goes, hundreds of arrests.
That was the time when they had the term called wilding, where groups of youths would just go running through the city and just abuse,
That started in
assaulting
Brooklyn.
people, robbing people. And it was just it was a rash for a few years. But yeah, it was crazy time.
Yeah, you'd hear that on the radio. Them giving out, we're going to call for wild.
Wild.
That was the Williamsburg that went to trial, and it was wilding. That's when the news started using that
That
phrase.
term, yeah. It was.
That was amazing. But are all police did you have riot gear? If need be, was everybody called in for a riot?
They would, if something was going on, I would say bring your hats and bats.
Hey, it did work. I'll give you a good one. I worked in, which I tell people all the time about Times Square on New Year's Eve. Years ago, it wasn't as controlled as it is now. Mm-hmm. But years ago, for whatever reason, they would cordon off the corners, and that's where the cops would be. So in the middle of the intersection, and the crowd would go in the 4 directions, from there.
Would you still have to leave after midnight, after the ball dropped?
What do you mean, the people?
Yeah.
Well, what I always say, people left Times Square all the time quickly because usually it was cold and they had been there for a long time. So as soon as the ball dropped, the crowd dissipated quickly. Yeah. But at one time,
there's no party going on.
No. But I was a sergeant working, and it was probably like 85, 86, and I was assigned to anti-peddler detail on the 10 to 6 shift on New Year's Eve.
Those are the people selling stuff on the corner?
Yeah, but what it was, basically, they had a whole bunch of us turn up at the barrier unit. And it was one sergeant, like 6 cops. You're in a van. They gave me an area. Let's say you got 7th Avenue to 8th Avenue from 44th to 48th Street. And you would just patrol it. Basically, what it was? It was when wilding was going on. So they just wanted a large amount of cops out and about. Right. That if anything happened, they were always there. So, all right, you're the peddler detail for that area. But at the end of the shift, at 6 o'clock, we're headed back to the pier to drop off the vans and go home for New Year's. I'll never forget, as we come upon the pier, there's like 4 buses. I remember turning to the guy and going, "Oh, we're not going home." I said, "We're not going home." And as soon as we got off the van, okay, get your men, let's go. Yeah. You're reserves for this evening now. You're going to be reserves for the Times Square for the for the ball drop. So anyway, so I get in a bus, a bunch of us, probably 30, 40 cops, and I was a sergeant at the time. And we're sitting like at, say, Broadway and 48th, just parked there, like 2 or 3 buses, and just waiting to hear if anything happens. And all of a sudden, a call for help comes over, 1085 in like 43rd and Broadway, 1085, Central. So whoever did, a lieutenant, would get everybody off the bus. And we did it actually according to the way it was trained, like get the biggest guy in the front, because the streets are packed already. Yeah. So we get the biggest guy in the front, single file, one behind the other, let's go. And we had like 40 guys. And so the guy in the front is just pulling people out of the way and pushing them to the side. And I'll never forget it. We broke through the barrier into this intersection. There's about 20 cops trying to hold back with the old wooden barriers, and they're trying to hold back the people on all four sides because the people are really rambunctious. And there's bottles being thrown. The bottles are landing everywhere. Bam! Psh, and we had no helmets or anything. But we come crashing through, and now it's like an extra 40 cops. So the guy, the sergeant there, give me 10 over here, give me another 10 over here, hold this line back over here. But I'm standing there with that, a lady in the crowd's like, there's a man stabbed in here. There's a man stabbed in here. And I'm like, there's nothing that can be done.
Right.
Apply pressure. Because when the crowd, you can't even get in there. It's a madhouse. It's freaking insanity. So, just hold it, until freaking thing is over.
Yeah, I worked New Year's Eve going into 1984. I was a brand new cop. And I was standing at the corner of, maybe it's like 10 o'clock at night. So what they do is that whole zone becomes a frozen zone. Right. Nobody's in. No, they don't give a shit who you are. You're not coming in here, right? And all around where the ball is. So this guy comes up with a cooler, and he goes to me, "Officer, you got to help me. I have an invitation to a party in the building where the ball is." I go, "You can't get there." So he goes, No, I got the invitation right here." He goes, "I'm supposed to be in there." So I go, you can't walk down Broadway. I says, it's closed. I says, so he goes, well, I came all the way to the city. I got a whole cooler of food and beer. And I said, listen, the only thing I can tell you is I go all the way around and come up on 43rd Street. And maybe somebody will walk you across and into the building. I said, that would be your closest spot. So he goes, okay. So he leaves. Maybe a half hour later, I just happened to be looking up Broadway. Right, I see the guy walking with his cooler
in the restricted area.
Yeah, a block away from me. Yeah. He's walking with his cooler. He gets tackled by like 5 cops. Right, they kick his feet out. His cooler goes that way. There's beer all over the street. They got him handcuffed.
Hey,
I got that poor. He's probably telling that story to this day. Yes, right, but it's like I told him you can't walk through there.
Are you? Do you look at police today, especially someone who's just got on in their 20s, and do you think, oh, if you only ever knew? No, it's
a tougher job. What?
If you only ever knew, like the antics that you went through, as opposed to what happened.
You know what's funny?
Today.
I tell stories all the time, and I say, and I'm literally, I guarantee you that guys do not believe what I'm saying.
Right.
Guarantee it, because it was so freaking bizarre times that I can guarantee it.
Nothing ever happens to police today, like on the level of what you went through, of your
experience. Well, it just what the whole city went through. It was like the whole city was in, it was wild.
John, you know what I think of? My last thing in the city was the Statue of Liberty birthday.
Oh, I was leaving. I worked that.
Yeah, I was leaving to go
to
Nassau.
That was fantastic.
So we worked till midnight, and you had to be back at like 7 in the morning. The following was like 3-day detail. And so the thing was, on everybody's mind, Midtown South had 20 beds. There had to be 100 cops assigned. Right. So everybody's thinking the same thing. The faster you get back to Midtown South,
get a bed.
Better chance you're going to get a bed, right? So, and then, after that, you had to sleep on the floor, guys on tables. So I'm by the station house, and I'm just getting in the door, and a taxi cab pulled up. No bullshit, 20 cops hanging on the roof. Right? All in uniform. Yeah. The trunk was open. There were guys in the trunk.
Oh, I was assigned to the peddler detail in Brooklyn North. So I was a sergeant in 7-5, but I was there for the whole week. So it was Fleet Week too, I think. Right. It was Fleet Week. So the ships from throughout the world.
Oh, that was my next question.
Oh, they were here from throughout the world. So basically, I was a sergeant and had like 6 cops, and they gave us a van. I'd go to the 8-4 every day on a 4 to 12. We'd pick up the van. I'd get the 6 cops. We had the same 6 cops. We'd get in the van. And I went to every single ship that was anchored over there. And we just drove around, and it was a great time. It was a great party. The city was really a great time. But I would call every night to operations. Had to give my numbers. All right, Sarge. I go, yeah, Brooklyn North Peddler. How many arrests? None. How many summonses? None. How much vouchers? How much property you taking? I said, nothing. So after like 3 or 4 nights, he's like, you're not doing much over there, are you? I said, is anybody complaining about peddlers? He goes, no. I said, well, then we're doing our job.
Okay,
that's all. I go,
there it is.
Yeah, there's a couple. Just, hey, Lee, keep moving.
Were you working when the when Fleet Week was in, the big tail hook scandal.
No,
That
no. Well, that wasn't here, was it?
No, that wasn't here.
No.
That wasn't here.
No, no.
I remember.
I was in Washington D.C. for the police department tail
Yeah,
hook.
yeah.
Oh yeah, no, but you know what? I
Yeesh.
remember. I
I was
remember
there.
the New York Post, who was really not a fan of the police, and I forget the reporter. I think I might know, but I don't want to say any name in case I'm wrong. But the reporter who wrote the story was not a fan of the police to begin with, and I remember the New York Post had a front page picture of a guy holding a girl. He was in uniform and he was holding a girl up on himself, and the headline was NYPD out of control.
Yeah.
Oh, was
And-
that Washington?
But
Yeah,
but
yeah.
the picture of the police was like a Rhode Island
Oh,
patch. It wasn't
yes.
even New
No,
York.
that was, yeah.
No,
that was,
I was standing with Franny Lenahan. We were at the party. And Franny said to me, "This is our tail hook."
Yes,
He goes,
yes.
This is,
It
he goes,
was,
I see it coming. And that was the year. It all came crashing down.
And no more of that.
Yeah.
yeah,
They
no.
still do it,
and
but
well,
it
but
was,
you know what?
It was out of control.
And rightly so. I mean, that's not good. You can't have that out.
Yeah.
You know, that goes on. I mean, it shouldn't go on, and then to have it publicized, and you know,
Right.
it's just you lose respect for the police officers.
Well, that's
No,
like-
but
that-
you know what? And I'll say it again. Different times back then. You know what I mean? It was crazy, crazy times, and it was a little out of control. It wasn't just the cops were out of control; the city was out of control. But
No, I
but you
get
know, you
that.
should really, yes, you should maintain a more
Well, you could-
responsibility. But
You could point to any St. Patrick's Day parade and they get out of
but
control.
they changed that though. You know.
No, but I mean, that was a wild day for police.
Yeah, yeah.
and
Oh,
For-
yes.
for
the
everybody.
crowds,
Everybody,
everybody.
yeah,
everybody.
It was Long Island Railroad on St. Patrick's Day
Yes.
was not a pleasant place.
This
to
guy,
be.
this guy says to me, he was in the pipe band years ago, and I go, "Oh, the police department pipe band?" He goes, "Yeah." He goes, "I was in for a few years," and I go, "What happened? Why'd you leave?" And he goes, "The partying." He goes, "Do you know what it's like coming home on a Long Island Railroad wearing a kilt?" And I go, "Wait a second, St. Patrick's Day, there's a lot of guys in uniform." He goes, "Nah, not 3 days later."
yeah, I know.
So what else?
No, but anyway, so in South Jamaica, Queens, though,
Yeah.
it was a really good place to work because you did have a lot of like, there was a lot of decent people lived in the neighborhood. Bus drivers, MTA employees, you know, teachers.
Was there a lot to clean up though?
Well, like I said, there was those pockets, but it also had like a nice St. Albans had Addisley Park, which is
Yeah,
a nice residential area.
They own their own houses, and they
Yeah, no,
take care of their
exactly. And that's why
properties.
and that's why I really didn't mind going and doing like the cleanup of those areas because, like I always said, you know, try to imagine a family, you're raising your kids and they can't even go down to the corner to get a freaking container of milk. You know what I mean? Like, that's not right. You know, it's
Right,
their
right.
neighborhood. They should be able to let their kids go down the street and not have to worry about getting shot and stabbed. And
But was it like that with Tribeca and Soho and Greenwich Village?
no,
And
no. But, you know, that's the way it is. That's, I'm sure the Lower East Side, you know, back in 50,
Yeah.
60 years ago was the same. It's the way low-income people congregating and crime happens. And then you know, a lot of, I believe,
was Giuliani's Broadway cleanup happening when you were on?
yeah. But I wasn't on patrol. I was off patrol.
Did you agree with the way he thought policing should be?
Yeah, well, the whole theory, which is the broken windows theory of policing. It wasn't his theory. It was
I thought that was
Jack-
Bratton.
Jack Maple.
Jack
Oh,
Maple.
I
Jack
thought
Maple.
that was Bratton.
And I'll give you the perfect example of broken windows theory of policing. And this is what I've heard over the years, and I'm pretty sure this is legit. Bratton came in first. He was the transit commissioner, right? Police commissioner
Came
for
from
transit.
Boston,
Right. So he had Jack Maple was a lieutenant in the transit. And if there's any transit guys, I want to talk you, let us know. But so he put him in charge. And one of the first things they did back in those times, robberies on the subway system was so bad that the old way of responding, which is what I tell them about, we're just responding to crime, they would have like robbery units throughout the city, stationed throughout the city, waiting for the robbery to come in, and then they race there to try to catch the guys, right? So the first thing that Jack Maple instituted was we're going to, in Bratton, eliminate the robbery units, and we're going to have turnstile jumping units throughout the city. And guys were up in arms. Like, what are you, out of your mind? Who gives a shit about turnstile jumpers when people are getting robbed and assaulted every day? And the answer was, who do you think is doing it? Those are the guys doing it. And that's broken windows theory. That's easy. Get a guy jumping over the turnstile. Now you can put him up against the wall, and you have every legitimate right to pat him down. And, oh, he's got a gun. He's got a knife. He's got a warrant. He's got, you know, whatever. And crime plummeted. And that's the broken windows theory. The broken windows theory of policing is, you know how it got that term?
Oh, well, from the Bronx?
No,
The
no.
buildings?
It was a professor in a college somewhere. And if I could simplify it, you live in a neighborhood, right, and everything's going along fine. And all of a sudden, one house becomes abandoned. The people move out. For a short while, everybody in the neighborhood's like, wow, that's weird. You know, that house is now empty. That's strange. But after a while, you accept that. Oh, okay, that's the empty house on the block. No big deal. Eventually, somebody will go by and break a window in that house. And at first, everybody is like, wow, what the hell, man? Somebody went by and broke the window in the house. But after a while, you accept that.
Right.
And that becomes the norm. And your expectations keep getting lower and lower and lower. And once that happens, then more things start happening. And you end up not even caring anymore. Because so when you start to address those things and don't let it get where people, accept that stuff.
Right.
That's when, and a lot of the times the guys that are doing those small things, like back then, remember, it was the squeegee cleaners and
graffiti
guys. A lot of them are involved in the other stuff. You know what I mean? Or they're of the same circle. They're always running in the same circles. But it's easier to get them for the little stuff, instead of waiting for them to do a robbery. All right, get them for the small stuff. And maybe you could take some of those guys and before they get involved in the big stuff, get them headed in another direction. And it worked.
I remember where we live in Long Beach, I remember complaining to city council, writing them emails saying that there was graffiti on the garbage can. And I figured, okay, can we get rid of this like within the next day or
clean
so?
it up now. Yes.
Right. And then on the boardwalk, the kids started breaking the benches, the ends of the benches.
That's the whole thing. Once you start accepting that, your expectations become lower and lower and lower. And then there's people hanging out selling loose joints, and then what's the big deal? Oh, there's a hooker on the corner. What's the big deal?
The funny part about it though is like in Bryant Park, I said about the drugs and they wanted a crackdown, so they wanted precinct conditions. What they would determine as a precinct condition was marijuana. Right. That went into the system. Okay.
Yes, I remember. Yeah.
Okay, so. You could it became like, you want to make overtime? Grab that guy over there that's smoking the joint. Right. Oh, the guy has crack? Get him out of the way because that was a whole different thing.
Oh, no,
different
easiest thing in the
court,
world.
right?
Yes. Yep.
So you went like, the guy smoking the joint, you take him in on a Thursday, and you could literally still be with him on Saturday down in court. And it was like precinct conditions, it could be a little violation. Those would go into the system.
There was so much drugs, and I got put into that narcotics unit in South Jamaica, Queens. It was a little 4-man unit in the 113 precinct. This is how bad it was. Like one night, I'm turning out my partner, Richie, the guy, we're sector car partners, and we got put into this unit together. I'll never forget, we're leaving the station house, and I turned to him, I go, do you want to make an arrest tonight? He's like, no, not me. I'm like, nah, me neither. It's, just because you can get them anytime you wanted to. Right. They're around on every corner dealing drugs, and you knew who the drug dealers were. You just had to watch for 15 minutes. But anyway, I said, all right, we'll just drive around and we'll go past all the drug spots and see who's out. So the first place I go down to is Rockaway and 142, and they always deal angel dust right off of Rockaway Boulevard there. So I'm in an unmarked car, right? And we're in plain clothes, but we still have the radios and all the paraphernalia in the middle of the seat. As I go down the street, a guy comes to my window. He's like, hey, you guys want to buy angel dust? And I'm like, no, I don't want to buy angel dust. No.
He doesn't realize?
Yeah, no, you don't know. So, and a guy, as he's telling me, a guy's coming up to my partner's window. Hey, you guys want to buy angel dust? And we're like, no, we don't want to buy angel dust. Like, holy fuck.
You're getting annoyed?
Oh, Joyce, next thing you hear, car door open. A hand comes over the back seat. Hey, with a handful of angel dust. Here, drive up here. I'll deal you up here. I turn to my partner. I'm like, son of a, the guy got in the car now. The guy just got in the back seat of the fucking car. But now we gotta lock him up. Like, holy shit! I go, he literally let himself into the police car.
So brazen.
Yeah, I was.
Goodness.
Oh.
Yeah, remember back in the day, stolen Cadillac bumpers.
Yes, yes. I was just told that the other day.
Why would you steal? Why?
Because it was a business that was created. Because they would steal
Cadillac
them.
converters.
Yes, they would steal them. They'd sell them to the junkyard. You'd come out in the morning. Hey, my bumper's stolen. You'd go to the repair shop. They'd go to the junkyard, buy it from the junkyard, charge you, your insurance company.
For your own bumper.
Yeah, so they were just revolving. So then they started welding the bumpers on, and
Oh wow.
Yeah, Cadillac bumpers was stolen.
Well, you know what? You were talking before about the different shifts in the precinct. So, like in our precinct, in 113, if you were working a day shift, one of the first things you did when you went out in the morning into your sector, you'd go around and count up how many stripped cars were dumped overnight. Because they'd be dumped overnight. They'd go out, steal them. In our precinct, there was a group of guys that would go out to Long Island and pull back 2 or 3 cars and then dump them. So in the morning, you'd drive around. And literally strip everything off the car. You didn't even know what it was.
Like a NASCAR race team.
Right.
Yes, it was like a chassis sitting there. It was like, all right, what the, I didn't even know what kind of a car this was. So you'd end up either, mark it for sanitation or that's where a lot of guys, you go around and get your summonses in the morning. A lot of times you go to the same car. That's where every once in a while, there's a dead body and they've got 37 summonses over the last. It's like,
what's funny is you see the chassis and you would see that on a movie and you would think, oh, that's funny. That's the punchline. But it's like, no, that's...
Oh, that is, yeah. You know what they used to do? They used to, sometimes they'd drive them around in the back of a box truck.
Right.
And they would just roll them out. Or they would drive them. They'd have a milk crate for a seat.
Yeah.
And they leave the battery just loose.
Yeah.
Because that would be the last thing they take. As soon as they dumped the car, drop the chassis off, they just grab the battery and go.
Oh, my God.
Let me tell you, it was
John, no lie. Working in the 112, working at midnight. I'm with an old timer. We're parked on the back street, reading the newspapers. Right, it's at 3 o'clock in the morning, and we're sitting in the car looking out the front, at the corner right past us. Here comes a chassis with no parts on it, goes rolling past us. Our father goes, "Did you see that?" Right, we pull up to the corner, it crashed into a tree. There's nobody around, right? It got dumped out of a truck on a hill, so they just let it go, and it passes us though, like what's that? It's like a stolen car.
Hey, I had a good call one time of. This is where auto stripping one time we get a call like the Van Wyck and the Bell Parkway.
Yeah.
You know the big huge interchange. So in the middle of those interchanges, there's like a huge area of like shrubs and trees and bushes. A lot of those. You'd go in there, it would be like an elephant burial ground. There'd be like 25 chassis in there because that's where they would use them for stripping. They'd bring the cars in and nobody bothered them there. So one time a call comes over for auto stripping on the Belt and the Van Wyck. So we were like on the Van Wyck and we came down and we're on the Belt, like going eastbound, but I see the auto strip is on the other side of the Belt Parkway, way across the interchange, and they're walking up the grass towards the Kennedy Inn. But I remember I go on the radio on like Central, the 3 males, the auto strippers, they headed over towards Kennedy Inn. She's like, "Do you have a description?" I said, "No." I go, "I'm way across on the other side of the Belt Parkway." She goes, "I need a description to put over." I said, "Okay." I go, "Male number 1, medium height, medium build. He's got a car door on his head." I go, "Male number 2, medium height, medium build. He's got a car hood on his head." I go, "Male number 3, medium height, medium build. He's got a chassis on his head." I go, "You're not going to miss him. They're carrying body, car parts up there."
Oh, insane.
Hey, well, we had the hotels were there, right, from the Kennedy Airport, because we covered Kennedy Airport. So the hotels, some of them were in the 113 precinct. And like I said, it was a rough area. So I'm working one time with an old timer, and we see this. It was a white couple, and they were a middle-aged white couple, right, walking out of the hotel down the street, headed towards like Rockaway Boulevard. My partner's like, "Pull up next to them." I pull up next to him. He's like, "Oh, hey, what are you guys doing?" They're like, "Oh, no, we have an overnight. We're staying here. We're just going to go down and get something to eat, He's like, he reaches over. He pulls out a complaint report and an ADA card. "Do me a favor." He goes, "Fill these out." He goes, "Just leave them in your pocket." And the guy said, "What is this for?" He goes, "This is when we find your bodies later." We'll know who you are. He goes, they're like, "Is it a bad area?" Like, "Yeah, this is not a, I don't mean to negative, but it was a bad area.
Yeah.
So you can't be walking from the hotel down to Rockaway
But
Boulevard."
I would be on 42nd Street on a midnight tour in the winter, right? I mean, it's just, you're out there, it's 3 o'clock in the morning. The regulars, they were doing a midnight shift too. They were out on the corner, like they did as many hours as you did. And it's like, "All right, I'll see you tomorrow." "Yeah, take care, have a good one." Right? But every once in a while, you'd have like an elderly couple come down, like looking at the lights and the porno theaters, and like, it was like, "Oh boy, somebody escort them back up to their hotel."
Oh, wow. Well, that's come a long way. It's come a
Oh,
long
God, yeah. Yes, yeah. And I'm glad,
Yes.
So the New York Times is on 43rd Street. So it's like 3 o'clock in the morning. I'm standing on 8th Avenue, and it's just nothing going on. I see Tommy Boyle.
Oh, yeah.
Cutting across 8th Avenue to get to Port Authority. So he worked all night at the Times, and he's heading home. So as he's cutting across, I grab him by the arm and say, Sir, no jaywalking here." He goes, "With all this shit going on," he goes, "I'm worried about losing my life." He goes, "And now I got a cop telling me no jaywalking."
Actually, I have a good story about a friend that I saw when I was working.
Yeah.
Yeah, like in the 113, we were down to the Bell Parkway. So we used to have a taxi check, they would call it. A sector car would get assigned to taxi check.
What is that?
For half of the tour, you had to sit on the corner in the gas station at the corner of Springfield and the Conduit. And you were supposed, because taxis were getting robbed all over the place. So every precinct in the city had a taxi check, and you're out of service for one half the tour. You'd sit on that corner, and you're supposed to stop any yellow cabs coming by and make sure that nobody's trying to rob them or anything. But we're on the 113. There's not really many yellow cabs, so basically it's like a half. You're sitting there doing nothing. You're just basically sitting at a gas station. So we're at that gas station, and I see a friend I know from home stopped at the light on a conduit. It's in the morning, and he's going to work. So I tell my partner, I go, pull him over. I go, and then go up and just rip him apart. I go, and then I'll go up and give him his, license back. I go, but just go up and freaking really, berate him. So we pull him over. He stops. My partner gets out, goes up, and goes, give me your fucking license, you asshole. I go, what did I do? Shut your freaking mouth. I'll drag you out of this car. I'll beat the shit out of you. Don't give me any freaking talk. And I'm listening to my friend like, I don't know what I did, So he's yelling. I'm in the back, but I'm like down in the seat a little bit. And then my partner comes back. He gets in the car. He gives me the license. I look at it. I go, oh, that's not my friend.
Oh,
I go, that's not. I go, I thought it was. I go, same car and everything. He's like, what, are you kidding me? I'm like, no. I'm sorry. I forgot. I forgot. I go, it's not him. I thought it was him. Yeah. He's like, what do you want me to do? I'm like, I don't know. Just tell me. No, I went up. I told him, don't ever let that happen again. Go. Get out of here. I go, that guy to this day, I really feel bad. It's embarrassing. Because
Well,
to
you
this
should.
day, he's telling stories about, these freaking two assholes pulled me over.
I thought they would kill me.
Well, I'll tell you the story. A cop told me the story. Whether it's true or not, it's good. I don't know if it's true or not. But he says there's a guy, a cop who's off the streets. He's working down in Queens Court. So he leaves, 11 o'clock at night, and he calls the local station house, and he says, can you send a car over? I need a summons for a guy who went through a red light. So they go, yeah, where are you? He gives him, okay. Yeah, we'll send somebody over. Stay there. So a radio car pulls up. He goes, you need a summons? He goes, yeah, which, they do. We'll loan you a summons, all right? So they hand it to the cop, and they go, where's the guy that you pulled over? He goes, no, it's me. So they go, it's you. So he writes a summons to himself that he went through a red light, okay? He gives it back to the radio car. Can you turn it in, please? So they go, yeah, okay. So they turn it in, and, every summons is accounted for. So this cop who wrote himself a summons pleads not guilty and goes to Queens Court, right? And by himself. And the judge says, oh, you're the police officer that wrote the summons? Yes, I am. He's okay. We're waiting for the guy you wrote. He goes, no, I'm the guy that got the summons. So the judge says, you're the guy who got the summons? Yes. I wrote it to myself, and then I thought about it. I really didn't do it, so I'm pleading not guilty.
And have psych services respond.
Well, the cop goes to me, I never saw that guy again.
Oh, yeah, no, I know. That's, come on, there's something. Hey, you know what? They're all around us, and,
Yeah, of course.
Hey, you know what's funny? And I'm being honest. When I joined the police department, you had to go for the psychological.
Yeah.
And you had to take the psychological test and then the psychiatric test, and you had to go talk to a psychiatrist. And you know what? In the back of my mind, I'm like, well, maybe. I don't know. I don't know if maybe they'll find something, and I hope not. But.
But are they themselves putting the idea in your own head?
No, they're just asking, things about your history and everything. But when I got to the police academy, I remember looking around going, I was fucking worried. Right. Holy shit. Oh, my God.
Like, how did they pass the vetting?
Yeah, these guys were, it was like a high school class, you know,
I worked with a guy in Bryant Park, old timer, Vietnam vet, nicest guy in the world. But I always said, it would be 105 degrees out. We'd be sweating our ass off. He never sweat, and he always wore the wool shirt, like the highway patrol shirt with a tie, every day, right? And I was like, he never sweats. So I leave, and after I left New York City, and I called up, a couple of guys I worked with a few months later. I say, hey, how's so-and-so doing? They go, oh, you didn't hear? I go, no, what happened? So they go, he called in from home one day, and he called the desk officer, and he says, yeah, I need a change. So they're like, yeah, come in. What do you want? He goes, I want a new squad, and I want a new post. And they said, okay, come in, and we'll sit down, and you can have what, you've been enough. He was probably in the precinct 20 years. You've been here a long time, whatever you need. And he goes, no, I want it now. So they're like, that's not how it works. And they go, the desk officer kept him on the phone long enough to hear ESU kick in his front door, take him into custody. He was going to kill everybody. If he didn't get it, he was going to kill everybody. He was like...
Oh, boy. Oh, my goodness. Are you when you by the time you left, did you looking back, did you think, oh, I should have stayed and made captain?
No, I was on the captain's list though.
Were you
I was under 100 on the captain's
waiting
list.
to be called? You could
Yeah,
have
but
been
I didn't
called?
have my college, and so I was slow walking to college
Oh.
because I had a great job, and I would have had to go back to uniform. You would have been a duty captain, and
Oh,
yeah, so I was coming up on my 20s, so I was like,
Oh.
yeah, so I didn't take it.
So you're really a street guy. You like being
No, then I worked in headquarters, but
but
I
you
did-
like being out,
Oh,
not
God,
cooped
yeah.
up in the
Well,
precinct.
Yeah, but I mean, it was such fun times.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
why.
You know, like
you know.
Woody's the perfect example. Woody made captain, went to he did a precinct stint, and then he got graffiti unit, and they begged him to take a precinct so that he could get promoted. And for 15 years, he stayed. He goes, "Why would I leave?
Oh,
I got a
this
take
is-
home car,
No,
make my own hours."
You know, I was coming up near 20, so when I was on the captain's list, I'm like, damn, I'd have to go out, be a duty captain, go back in uniform, work around the clock. And what happened? I worked in all these guys inspections for a while, which basically you were the right hand man of the duty captain. I knew what they went through. And let me tell you something, it was not pleasant.
Oh, really?
Yeah, they just abused the crap out of them. You know?
What's inspections? You inspect the
In the borough, inspections was under the chief of patrol, and so we would investigate any allegations that didn't reach a criminal level. So if it was a criminal allegation, it went to the internal affairs.
Oh,
If it wasn't criminal, it went to us. However, believe me, guys that complain all the time, oh, the inspections, the White Sox guys. We had no time for freaking White Sox because I was in Queens North investigations. So we covered Queens North, and we covered Nassau and Suffolk. Anytime a guy got involved in anything, off duty, on duty, shots fired, anything like that, the duty captain was called, and he would call us to go and do the report. So, PO locked up in Suffolk County for domestic violence.
yeah.
Okay, let's go. Hey,
Every
captain,
week.
all right, we'll meet you out in Holtzville. It was a lot of overtime, unfortunately, but yeah. So
Did you say to yourself, Jesus, guy, why are you getting in trouble? What's wrong with you?
No,
What's wrong with these people?"
because I knew, and you know what? I think it was good because I worked with a good group of people that all had experience on the street. So, you know what? I'll give you a good story. Like when I used to have a guy come into the, when I had a new sergeant got assigned to the inspections, and I was a lieutenant at the time. So, and I said to him, I go, listen, there's going to be 3 types of cases that you're going to get in this unit. I said, one, you're going to look at it. I go, you're going to say, this is bullshit. This never happened. This is somebody making something up. I go, but you do your investigation and close it out. I go, the other one you're going to say, this happened, but I know it's still bullshit. It's not. And I used to use as an example. I said, here's a case. Some old woman called up in the 115. She said she got woken up at 3 a.m, loud noises outside. She looked out. There's 4 police cars parked with their headlights on. They're playing touch football in the middle of the street. I said, for a fact that happens. Right. Nobody's making that up. I go, but that's something where you call the sergeant and say, hey, Sarge, tell your guys, don't be doing that in front of people's houses at 3 a.m. Come on. Is not a parking lot somewhere you can go do that?
I'll tell you funny. Well, I worked in. I left the city, so I went to work in the 5th precinct, which is just over the line from Queens. So 3 o'clock in the morning, I get a call for a car up on the front lawn in West Hempstead. So I go there, and it turns out the guy who was in the accident, he's on his way to the hospital. He lived like 5 houses down, right? So he wasn't drunk or anything like that. He just, lost control, fell asleep, something. He went up on his neighbor's lawn, hit a tree. So I said, what do you want to do with the car? So he goes, oh, geez, when I come back from the hospital, I'll take care of it. So I go, let me talk to the homeowner. So I go to the lady. I said, this is your neighbor from 5 doors down. He wants to leave the car till he gets out of the hospital. She goes, okay, no problem. Just as long as he comes back tomorrow. I said, he's going to be back in a couple hours. Oh, okay, that's no problem. So I call in the accident report to the station house, and they go, all right, who took the car? I go, no, they left it there. He goes, they left it there. He said it was demolished. I saw it totaled. I go, but no, he knows it's a neighbor. He knew the homeowner, and the homeowner said, leave it there. Okay. Guy goes, no problem. So about a half hour later, I get a phone call. Call the lieutenant. So on the desk. So I call up. He's an old-time lieutenant. And he goes, I says, yeah, this is Costigan. You want me to call you on the 30? So he goes, Costigan, were you a New York City police officer before you came here 3 months ago? I go, yes, I was. He goes, okay, let me tell you the difference between New York City and Nassau County. We don't leave pieces of shit sitting on the side of the road. Go down there, and tow that car out of there.
Broken windows.
Broken
That's
windows,
broken
yes,
windows. Hey, if
absolutely.
you allow that, it gets worse. It's a slippery slope. And then, yeah.
Yeah, well, when you're paying taxes,
Right.
everybody's gonna get up in the morning, see this demolished car, like get it out of there. Okay, all right, no problem.
That's what it's all about. Well, John, part 3 is coming.
Oh,
You
I got a whole
because
bunch more.
They're gonna,
Yeah, oh, I'm telling you. Yeah.
they're gonna break down my door for
Oh,
another episode.
yes, I definitely will.
All right, so thank you for coming back, and we look forward to the next one. So we'll see you guys on listen to me, NYPD Blue. I got that show in my head. Behind the Blue New York. And there you have it. We finally got him back as promised. And I tell you now, there's a part 3 that's in the works as we speak. So thank you so much for tuning in to Behind the Blue New York, where we talk about the lighter side of law enforcement. Music all-nighter by Brian New, provided by Stock Music. Recorded live on tape at Penn Street Studios, all rights reserved. Please be sure to like and subscribe to our channel, and please drop a comment. We'd love to hear your feedback. We look forward to catching you on the next episode of The Blue, and until then, stay safe.